Hello and welcome back, my wonderful ladies. If you are new here, my name is JAKS, and this is where I have been sharing our journey from infertility all the way to pregnancy and all the craziness that has happened in between. And I am so glad you are here to join me today for my 28-week update. It's a bit of a busy week. I got the stomach flu, got the results of my glucose test, and went to my birth class. So let's jump in. We'll kick our updates off like we always do with the baby update. Baby Kingsley is about the size of an echidna this week, and that means he is around 14.5 to 15 inches long, weighing in somewhere between 2.5 and 3 pounds. This week he continues to put on fat, getting less and less wrinkly by the week. His eyes are able to open and shut and respond to light, and they're also migrating to their final place after many months of growing. And finally, different hormones are starting to be produced that are signaling to my body that it is getting closer and closer to time for delivery as well as breastfeeding. We know from our 28-week growth scan that he is fitting right in there at the 53rd percentile, right around 2 pounds 9 ounces based on those 3 measurements they take during the ultrasound: the head, the abdomen, the femur. I think they can estimate weight, but continues to grow on track, which I'm very happy to see. And our next growth ultrasound isn't until 32 weeks. Now for the mama update. I am weighing in, or I was weighing in around 158.5 pounds, which puts me 10 pounds over my starting weight, but that's not the current status. I had the stomach flu. Might as well just get it out of the way. I had a stomach flu, food poisoning, not quite sure what happened. Essentially, I'd been feeling a little off. Like literally one of my notes is, welcome back nausea. Except it wasn't like pregnancy nausea. It turns out it was something worse. But yeah, I had a day where I was like, I don't feel like eating anything. And then I got up, ate breakfast the next morning, and then lunch happened. And I did not make it all the way through lunch before I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just like the first trimester. I feel like I'm going to throw up. So I stopped eating. Great, good. And then just deteriorated through the afternoon until by evening, I told myself not to be a wuss. And went and got Evangeline from daycare and literally got in, handed her to the husband, and just lived in the bathroom for the rest of the night and vomited and all the fun stuff that comes with stomach flu. And he took really good care of me, but it was just so painful and so uncomfortable when obviously you have a baby just like taking up so much room, putting pressure on things. Anyway, so needless to say, my weight is no longer at 158.5. It looks more like this. So we'll see if in the next coming weeks I should rebound pretty fast. But it took a full another day before I could eat again, like normal. And I had a slight fever just overnight. So I'm not sure if it was food poisoning. No one else got sick, but also it was a really short stomach flu, like a 48-hour, whatever it was really unpleasant and really unnecessary. So like I said, it was just like 48 hours of really feeling awful. Then I was back to eating more or less like normal, but certainly wasn't how I planned to spend that night. That being said, even though my weight is a little questionable right now, my waist measurement is around 32 inches, so definitely growing finally after stagnating at 31 for a while, and my bump is getting bigger and changing, and we'll do bump shots right now. All right, this is what we got going on this week. From the side, from the front, then whoosh. Gosh. I look pregnant. I know that sounds silly to say, but like I walk around and I don't know, like this just like looking down, it doesn't look that bad. When I see it in the viewfinder, I'm like, oh, obviously I'm pregnant. Like seriously, when I look down, I'm like, oh, I just look a little bit. And then I look up there and it's like, oh no, It's for real.
Okay. Whoosh. See what we got going on. Whoop. So here is how we look from the side. Gosh, when I look at it like that, it feels like it's so high, right? This is what they mean when they say carrying high, right? This feels really up there. What do I know? All right, and then from the front, again, from the front, you can really hardly tell other than you see the big shadows. And you see that shadow there? It's just this ligament, which is so taut, sticking out, and then it goes down into my hip, like my normal hip. There's such a huge divot right there. So weird. But yeah, looking good. No stretch marks that I can see. But let me double check in the viewfinder since my view is a little obscured most of the time. No stretch marks that I can really see. Like I said, just this ligament here just sticking out a lot with that divot there is the only kind of unexpected thing. And otherwise carrying pretty high, but looking good so far.
I know I touched on the results of the growth scan in last week's update as well, but I have done a little bit more research, so I wanted to talk about again. From last week, we know he's growing just fine, and he's also in the breech position, so I did a little bit more research of how common that is, and it looks like 25% of babies are breech at 28 weeks. So it's not uncommon, but it's not what we want either. And usually by term, only 3% of babies still remain breech. So there's hope. But at every one of our scans, he has been breech. So I have no evidence that he flips around or knows how to flip around. And I also can't super tell where he is or what is hitting me. I know some women are really good about that. I don't know if it's just too early or if that's more of something you gain experience with and learn. But there hasn't been any drastic change in the way I feel his movements, which leads me to think he hasn't flipped. I would think there would be a change, but I might be making a grossly wrong assumption there. Anyway, that's okay. He still has time. We'll see. And no one's concerned besides me. The OB's like, we'll wait. Obviously, she doesn't worry until 35 weeks, and we have another scan at 32 weeks. So that'll be a definite marker as well to see if he's shifted or not. In the meantime, I can just stretch and drink a lot of water and hope he flips. The results of my glucose test came back. And while I passed my 1 hour glucose, I failed my CBC. So that's your common blood something? Count? I'm going to go with count. Common blood counts. And I failed a few of them, and it just indicates that I am anemic and low on iron, which kind of makes sense. I haven't been eating as much, and I've been slacking off on my prenatals. I'll just own up to that. I slacked off on my prenatals. Now I'm anemic. Let this be a cautionary tale. Don't slack off on your prenatals. So back on a good schedule with my prenatals, and I have an iron supplement. So I assume they'll check that next time as well and make sure. It does give me some peace of mind because I was feeling so tired in those weeks. And I don't know if I mentioned it because I was like, this is just third trimester life. But now makes a little more sense that I was anemic, and that was causing some of that issues. And talking to other mamas, it sounds like after 2-ish weeks of being on iron, you start to feel better. So hopefully that helps a lot with the level of tiredness that I was feeling. And finally, we went to our birth class over the weekend as well before I got stomach flu. And that was interesting. First of all, it was in person, which a lot of classes aren't. And talking with some of my other IVF mamas, a lot of them are opting for third-party classes if their hospital's classes are online. They're like, why would I stick with the hospital, if I have the option of another birth class, which I totally get, and there's some really good ones online. I think the number one thing that came out of my birth class is being able to ask hospital-specific questions, because the person teaching it is a doula at that hospital as well as a few other ones. But so she does the birth education classes and is also a doula. So she knew a lot about the practices of that hospital, which I found really helpful. Other than that, it wasn't anything super earth-shattering for me. I think the husband at least has a little bit more knowledge now of the basic terminology and the phases and all of that. I did learn a few interesting facts. One was about how you can tell Braxton Hicks and real contractions apart and what the difference is actually physiologically. So Braxton Hicks, if you imagine a little uterus here, Braxton Hicks are the muscles contracting this way, like horizontally, while real contractions contract vertically, obviously to push the baby down, which I thought was interesting. I never really knew, obviously, what the difference between practice and real contractions other than consistency and pain level and stuff like that. I didn't know there was an actual like muscular difference, so I found that interesting. I also learned about the scale used to kind of predict induction favorability, which it helps determine whether or not you'll have a successful induction. That was really interesting to learn about. And then I learned more about the IV pain medication, which I had heard about, but I didn't know much about. Learned enough to know it's not for me. But it, like I said, it was just always something that I kind of knew existed, but I didn't know when they used it over different types of pain management or what the pros and cons were. So there were a few good things. It was a very long day from 8:30 to 3:30. And really, I just needed the back half of that class, which was all about inductions and pain meds and stuff like that. The first half was all about like the actual physical process of labor and delivery, which I'm more familiar with. So it was like I said, I think it was worth going to for everyone to learn. I do have to say, I loved the couple in front of us. It was like they were written for a sitcom. They were just so lovey-dovey and that naive, just so excited couple. And I don't know if it's because like I'm too jaded at this point or what, but we had to do an exercise where we wrote down words that like described labor and delivery, like what adjectives we thought. And me and the husband are like, unpredictable and I don't know, hard or some variation of that, kind of really grounded, realistic words. And I legit stifled a laugh when the guy in front of me was like, awe-inspiring. It was just such a juxtaposition to what we had thought and are thinking. And they were just, crying in the birth video when the baby was born. They were so cute. They're so naive. I love that they're so pumped and happy and not worried. It was just funny. It added some levity to the day, which I greatly appreciated. So that was our birth class. That was week 28. We are firmly in the third trimester. Hallelujah. Just the end is in sight. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for the end to be in sight. So ready to be done being pregnant, and not for the normal, also for the normal pregnant people reasons of my body is taken over and I want to feel good again and be able to sleep, but also just for the mental relief of it. I really truly trust myself to take care of it. If you hand me an infant, I can keep that infant alive, and I just don't have that same confidence in my body, and it's still always this just lingering concern that something's going to go wrong. When is something going to go wrong? What's going to happen? That's just part of infertility and loss, and that doesn't go away. It just kind of gets lessened. And then finally you have a baby and it goes away. Finally that happens, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. So that is also part of why I'm so excited. I really want to just have Kingsley, have him here safe, and have him join our family. It'll just be so nice to be done building our family for a while, and done being pregnant, and done with medications, and done with shots and infertility, IVF, and take a break. All right. And finally, the last little update. What's up with the family this week? We have been renovating Evangeline's new room. Our goal is to keep the nursery more or less intact and move Kingsley in there after a few months. Obviously, in the first few months, you keep him in pack and plays and bassinets near you. Like, they don't really sleep in the nursery too much. But when it is time to transition her up to her room, she needs a room. So we have been painting and getting furniture and decorating, and I am trying to capture that all along the way so that we can have a fun little before and after video. Not my normal thing, so bear with me, but I'm really loving how her room is turning out so far. All right, and that is it for week 28. Bit of a bumpy ride, but it's over and I'm feeling better, and that's one more week done. So I'm happy. All right, until next time, ladies, keep on fighting.